So it is UC season again, and as always, as long as I'm a Chronicler at least, I'm going to keep making UC prediction videos. I have had a lot of requests for this in the past 24 hours, actually. A lot of people in the Chronicler Discord and stuff like that asking to be updated when I release this, so I hope it lives up to those expectations. Honestly, I'm not sure it will this time around because there are actually a lot of very close matchups, and just as a disclaimer, well ahead of time, my predictions here will probably end up significantly worse than last time. Not because the predictions themselves are worse, but just because it's harder to predict. So last UC, I think I got one match wrong. It was Ash against WTP. Ash actually ended up winning that match. I assumed WTP wouldn't be as affected by the players they sent over to Dep during that UC, but they performed a lot worse than I expected, so I got that one wrong. But everything else throughout was correct. Hopefully, even if it isn't as good as that, we can get at least somewhere close to that this time around. And I will explain my reasoning behind every pick. So if you have a different opinion on a certain matchup based off even my own reasoning, then you can obviously pick your own bracket, because there will be variables and matches that are just sort of coin flips here that we can only really best guess from the outside. The first round, as always, is always very simple. Not really much need to analyze much of this. There's always talking points of every alliance, and I'm never quite sure when to deep dive into that. But Dep versus Ash, obviously Dep go in as favourites. They're the first seed. They've strengthened the most with UC recruits, so clear first pick. Leg versus MBE. MBE a clear pick here. Leg's two top accounts in Abdi Rahman and Y2In, which was the Euphoria account as of last UC, have left to Enfrio and Dep respectively for this UC. Leg would have got smashed by MBE anyway, but even more so now Leg is significantly weaker, and that will come into play in the second round matchup as well, I'm sure. Enfrio against WTF, clear Enfrio win. Enfrio are the second or third best alliance in UC by quite a distance. Similar with FDH and MBL. MBL don't really have a chance. They had to not register for the last two matches of the season to even get in, because I think they knew they would have lost those matchups if they did register. And FDH easily the fourth or fifth best alliance in the playoffs, so EDR, just like I said with Enfrio, quite clearly the second or third best alliance in the playoffs, in my opinion. Not really much analysis needed there. Dumb against Core. Core have sent its biggest accounts over to Dep for UC. So Joker's accounts, which is like 3 max accounts, I think. You have the Imperial Rock account and Wise Legend. You have Wise Joker's account, and I think one more, maybe 2 more. Whereas Dumb have actually done a UC merge, it seems, with NW1. If they still have this, so it's horse trains going on at time of recording, which makes this annoying to show, but a lot of NW1 players have moved over to Dumb for this. So you effectively have the combined strength of 2 alliances here. Dumb have always been very strong. You see here in their little banner, they've won A-League previously, and they've gone up to Super League now, I imagine because of the castle fragments that are now on offer. That's de-incentivizing staying in the lower leagues, but gaining the strength of accounts like CCKU, Strahinja, accounts like that, even like T5 fillers, or just good players from NW1 to round out their attendance, their reinforcing and whatnot. Dumb is coming in very strong into this UC, actually, so they're the clear pick here, in my opinion. KC NFI is the most difficult pick of this round by a huge margin. One of the most difficult picks of the whole competition, I think, actually. Most people from the outside, I would assume, feel like this would be a KC win. They have the highest seeds, so they have time slot priority. They also have some of the strongest accounts in the game, like Peacetown, Black Bear, and a bunch of other really strong accounts. Whereas NFI obviously have nothing even close to that in terms of top end whale power. It seems like every UC, when I do predictions, I'm really high on NFI for some reason in these like 50-50 matchups. I seem to have a huge amount of respect for them for some reason. I don't even have very strong like personal connections there. I just every time we played them in WTF, they really impressed me. I'm gonna pick NFI here. It will be very expensive for them to win. It will likely be at 1 a.m. because they will pick 1922 and 1. KC, you would assume, would pick 713 and 1. So it'll be at 1. Both of these will be on Wednesdays because spoilers, will play in the third round as well by my predictions. I guess I can show that now. And I think WXC will win here, and then KSC will win there, and WXC will win there. So it'll be again in the third round here, a rematch of this. So I can just talk about both of them at once. If it is at 1, that isn't ideal for NFI, but on the same note, it's the work commute time for KSC. From if I'm remembering correctly, that has posed issues for them in the past. And I piloted against KSC last UC twice for FDH, and every time I've played KSC, the way the matches have consistently gone, the best way I can describe it is, for the first like 5 minutes, they're really scary. You have Peacetown Black Bear just annihilating you. Then they end up in buildings, and there's like 50 minutes of the match left, and all the momentum stops. Like, they're only as strong as particularly these two can just solo you over and over and over and over again. And if they do that and cap a building, they're then either stuck there, or they have to disband it, which pretty much gives the building up immediately. And you're not getting any points from that. You're just bleeding heals indirectly. And I think NFI are coordinated enough and committed enough to keep healing and stick their strongest leads into buildings. If they stick, particularly, I might be wrong, you correct me if I am, people from NFI, if they stick the likes of Blitz Me, Dark Knight, and Matesy into like Castley and Ports and Mines, they shouldn't be able to be soloed, at least not easily. I'm not sure KSC have really shifted to a Cav female meta on these top accounts, which is currently the like really prominent soloing build. But this one is to a point a coin flip, I'd say. If KSC win one of these matches, 2 of these matches, if it's KSC win this, then NFI win the third, or vice versa. It really wouldn't surprise me. But my picks will be NFI winning these. And then we go all the way through round 2. So head to Dep versus MBE, I assume. MBE won't even try, and it will just be a rollover for Dep. Everyone should realistically do that, except M3O and BDR, maybe FDH, WXC, but even then, they have no chance, to be honest. M3O FDH, I assume FDH will try here, but they may call it early if it starts going badly, because they will likely meet again anyway. But M3O are setting a very, very high standard this season of play. They're better than last season, I think, despite having some issues. Like, they lost a pretty significant group with like SE, James Delaney, Mad Queen on both accounts. One of them was the Papakari account, I think. So Rally Lead's gone, influential people gone there, but they've restocked well. They performed very well. They were doing very well against BDR in their one match earlier in the season. And they've got very strong UC recruits in, like Barind, Abdi Rahman, as I mentioned earlier, with Leg. Chidori's account is in, which is a true max account, which I think was bought by Coven or something. Not entirely sure on the deals of that, and I'm just mostly guessing. Meridianos is maybe one of the like top 3 accounts in the game in terms of how hard they are to kick out of a building currently. He has 4-star Daenerys weapon, 4-star Dana weapon, huge spear base, and with the prominence of Cav female as well, that absolutely demolishes it. So I think Meridianos is a huge swing factor for M3O and will be through the whole of UC. But another thing they've done is they've recruited a lot of T5 fillers, I think. From what I hear, this was a point of emphasis for them recently, and they might have the highest volume of T5 players through the Alliance, barring maybe Dep. So a lot of these people, like VV Lin, they brought in for UC. I mean, Dane's in on the same note as her, him, whatever gender they are. They have a lot of strong fillers brought in who can just send T5s into buildings, and if you stack buildings to like 20, 25 mil T5s, that is very, very hard to break through because for FDH, for example, I know for a fact they just don't have that same volume of T5 players at all. So when it comes to defending buildings, both in terms of reinforcing and actually defending the rallies against higher numbers of T5s, that is a huge advantage M3O has over other alliances this UC, I think. BDR and Dumb, I think Dumb come in very strong, but BDR is just a bit too high of an ask for that group. I don't think they hit the account level that BDR has by itself, but BDR are still, in my opinion, probably the most coordinated UC alliance, even if the roster isn't as deep, which may cause issues for them later in the competition. Ash versus Leg, normally in most UCs, actually, I have phrased that weirdly. I would have expected myself, like, if you asked me this question 2-3 days ago, to pick Leg here. But as I said previously, Leg have lost their two strongest accounts to M3O and Det. Meanwhile, Ash have actually kept Barak rather than him go to BDR, which is incredibly significant. That is a huge swing factor for them. And because of that swing of the top end accounts, I will pick Ash here quite handedly as well. I'm not hugely knowledgeable about Leg post merge with, was it RGB, RBG, whichever way around those letters were. But they absorbed a bunch of strong accounts. So I played the previous version of Leg in WTF, but not with this group here. I mean, you see just scrolling down Y2N, which is the Euphoria account, Abdi Rahman, top elims in every single match, up until this last one where they left. So I have more faith in, I think, Ash's coordination and account strength both. I might be wrong in that second point because I'm not as knowledgeable about Leg's group, but because of that, it's going to be Ash for me here. WTF against MBL, as I said of MBL previously, not intending to cause offense or anything, but they just aren't at the level of what you would expect of one of these UC alliances, and not yet at least. If you're having margins of like 10k with alliances like this and then not registering for the last two, WTF is going to be a very big ask to beat, I think, because WTF are very coordinated and very committed as well. They will not stop healing. Unless you have a significant account strength advantage over WTF, they will always be very, very hard to beat. RRH against Core, this again is one I have struggled with a lot in the pick. So there are a few notes here. This might be the one I end up talking most about of all, actually, because there's just so many things. So RRH have sent their biggest accounts to N3O, or biggest account at least. So Barind has left. You see here, player of the game, Barind. He is in M3O for UC. Wily Cat is in M3O for UC. On the same note, though, Core have sent like Wise Legend, Wise Joker, that whole Wise group's top accounts to Det. Det, on the other hand, though, have sent their alts to Core, so they matched in this last match, and I believe there was tons of Elim following here, as you can see, from like the alt accounts. My point here is that they did repopulate Core and fill up those empty spots. And then the key point for me here, so Core has time slot priority. If I can see the seeding, my eyes are failing me. So here, their 10th seed, RRH is 15th here. So Core will have time slot priority. Core will likely pick 13, 7, and 1. RRH, I don't know, but they will pick, I imagine, 19, 22, and then 1 or 13. As far as I know, they have a pretty significant American contingent, which would lean me towards 1 from the outside, but I genuinely don't know. If you pick 13, you're going into Core's ideal slot, so I think that the combination of those two, they'd go 1 would be my assumption, but I have no insider information about that at all. If it's 1, say I pick Core here, and then we go to this third round, and MB beat Ash, FDH beat WTF, this is MBE's do or die match. MBE play Dep in the second round where this match happens. Because MBE play FDH, they shouldn't pick 1am. because that's FDH's ideal time slot. That means that this depth match won't be at 1 a.m., so everyone in depth, Joker, and all that group can pilot en masse for core if this is at 1 a.m. and be undistracted by their own match. Truthfully, I don't know enough about these two alliances to have a huge amount of conviction in my decision here, but there are just a few things like that, the time slot priority, the way that time slot lines up where Dep MBE shouldn't be at the same time as this, so Dep can pilot for core, because there's clearly a connection there. I mean, they threw the last match to get core into UC. You see it, the Alliance score, core's 18.1 mil, RIH is 16.7, so the depth of their roster is a bit higher. I'm not sure where coordination is at for the two of them, but I would just edge core here. But this is another one that I think is a bit of a coin flip. If you pick RIH, I do not begrudge you that whatsoever, to be honest. Into round 3, these are my actual picks. I think MB easily beat Ash, FDH easily beat WTF. Both Ash and WTF just don't have the account strength to compete with these, let alone coordination reasons or anything beyond that. It's just the account difference is too big a hurdle to overcome, in my opinion. Dumb core, easily dumb. Dumb's group is just so strong. NFI KAC, like I said in the first round, is going to be NFI again. Into round 4. Dep, I'm going to pick Dep to just smash everyone as I did previously. Again, I just don't see how anyone competes with this group, to be honest. I mean, I can probably get into it now. There are so many things Dep has over everyone else that is just too much to overcome, so the soloing alone is absurd, where even M3O and BDR's like middle tier leads can get soloed. Then you have the racing on Dep's max accounts, not having to swap accounts like Flying Dutch out, just racing them into stuff is ridiculous. But also just the depth of fillers. So you look through the roster, and let's just assume like 25 down. This isn't actually the case, but let's just assume everyone from here down is a filler. It's like Sungnam has a level 60 plus Sapphire. There's level 60 Sapphires all the way down here, just everywhere. So you're stacking like 2 mil T5 marches, 9 dragon skills, Sapphire with all the dragon skills activated, and max stats, max dragon damage. It's so hard to beat that because you can't defend rallies. It's so hard to take stuff from them because of how hard it is to win rallies on them. It's brutal and it's not fair to N3O and BDR, and I imagine it must be very frustrating. I am happy being somewhere where you just don't care because you can't compete. BDR, WXC. BDR win that quite handily, in my opinion. WXC lost twice through the regular season to FDH. BDR have historically beaten FDH very handily, including in the most recent match here, even at FDH's main time slot. I think WXC has some coordination teething problems after the merge, which from an outsider perspective actually surprises me because I thought BC was historically very coordinated in UC, and with the huge swing of accounts, I did think they'd be a bit of an AC juggernaut. I guess the question is, how much influence does BC have in this group? Because you scroll down, it's just WTP all the way down, and at that point, it's like, at what point is it just the same issues WTP historically had that are just gonna continue to occur, I guess? They're obviously really strong, but when it comes to beating alliances like BDR, being strong doesn't matter. You need to be just absolutely ridiculous in terms of making no mistakes, speed of racing, reinforcements, rally filling, rally sending, timing. You need to check so many boxes simultaneously and not stumble at any point. And for sure, WXC has the ability to do that. I just haven't personally seen it to date, so I can't exactly make predictions, assuming it's the case. MB, FDH could go either way, honestly. I'm gonna pick FDH, but if MB win that, it wouldn't surprise me. I think MB are quite clearly the cream of the crop at 1900, below those big two of BDR and M3O. Their rally lead depth is very strong, potentially even comparable to FDH, honestly. not at the top end at all, but just in terms of depth of winning rallies, I think this has, barring probably BDR Enfrio when that happens, potential to be the best match of the whole UC. I think last UC it was HOH FDH. On the same note, it's going to be a sort of similar situation here, but I will just edge FDH. It will be a bloodbath for all involved, though, I think. Uh, Dumb, I think, quite handedly take this, and if I just don't have the account strength to compete with Dumb, unfortunately, particularly with the NWR merge as well, then N3O against FDH. I'm sorry, I'm going M3O. A lot of friends in FDH, but FDH realistically are losing by this margin to BDR. I cannot predict them to beat N3O because I think N3O BDR is near enough a coin flip this UC. WXC against Dumb. This could go either way. I am quite unsure of this actually. I will pick WXC. I think they have stronger accounts in the top end, and I think I trust their racing more. So CC has raced directly into mines previously. Zorro, God Vegeta, very, very good racers. Dumb might have racers on that sort of level as well, but I just, because they've been in A-League so long, I don't know. It's UC, so there's so much piloting of people just getting thrown around the place as well that this could end up a coin flip. I will personally edge WXC though. It will likely end up at 1300, and that's of course quite comfortable for WXC with quite a large contingent of their alliance just being WTP, who always played 1300, of course. Depth, I feel, are unbeatable. Saw that in the last two UC finals. BDR near enough didn't try last UC after a while. It's so hard to compete into them. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. M3O, I'm gonna pick over WXC. Trust their coordination more than WXC as well. Then BDR against N3O. This is the real UC finals, to be honest, because whoever wins is just signing their own death warrant. And when Dep win, like, no one cares. I don't even think Dep care, because it's just so obvious. It's so emotionless. That's just how I see it, at least. So whoever wins this is going to realistically have the bragging rights of UC, in my opinion. Both have brought in strong rally leads for UC. M3O, the likes of Abdi Rahman, Berend. BDR have brought in the come accounts as always, like Chupimaru, Mio, Karasa now, who is the Orion account, I believe that is. So last season, I very heavily favored BDR over M3O. I feel like it's much closer this season, given the recruitment on either side. I feel like N3O, I might be wrong about this, I very well maybe, has more T5 fillers, which is significant. I think BDR are very, very loyal to their core community members. So you see a lot of them down here that are zero castles and just like with T4s. As time goes on, this does become harder and harder to compete with, I feel like, because if N3O gets to a point where they have 100 people with 3 mil T5s and they fill every building with it, that is difficult. And I do think N3O have an edge there. But then when crunch comes to crunch, when it comes to coordination and dealing with the pressure, I will probably always edge BDR over everyone else when it comes to AC. So they will be my pick here. I feel like they will immediately lose in the finals, but they will be my pick. But as we did see in their meeting previously in the season, they are at a very, very similar level. And a prediction there means nothing, to be honest, because one fumble of a mine or a castly swap or something totally flips the score, and it really could go either way, 100%. All in all, that is my predictions. There may be information that comes out or predictions aren't able to be made, and you can maybe hold off on confirming them because of that. I feel like if I don't confirm mine, I'm going to sit here and overthink absolutely everything. So I am going to confirm mine here. I will hope I haven't misclicked anything or had any brain farts whilst making these. I would not put it past myself. There are a lot of 50-50 matches in here, so KC NFI both times, RIH Core, maybe Ash versus Leg, maybe, but then MBE FDH, WXC dumb, BDR, M3O. There are a lot of things that could swing, like KSC dumb as well. I probably didn't give enough attention to when I was explaining it, but that will also be quite close, I think. So I would be beyond shocked if these predictions were 30 out of 30 in the end. The goal is probably like clearing, 24 or something. If you want to steal these, feel free. And if you want to use any information you have that I don't, or just the reasoning I myself gave to pick otherwise in certain places, that's perfectly understandable, and I wish everyone in UC the best of luck. Hopefully we get some great and very memorable matches to watch and look back on.